much fun. This is Janice Arnold-Jones, and I am trying to fill some very big shoes for Adam Kokesh. This is Adam versus the Man. Adam is in Farmington filming a documentary for the BBC. And before we go back to Bill on the phone, I want to give a shout out to TJ Thompson from Indiana. We were talking about exactly that. What are you going to do? You're going to light the fuse? And he says, you mentioned the important thing is that we fight. And I agree. I am standing and fighting in Indiana against one of the biggest threats to American liberty presently in Washington, D.C., Mike Pence. Many people instantly say, Mike Pence, isn't he the conservative chosen one? Absolutely not. He is living proof that hardly any difference exists between Democrats and Republicans. Many people speak of Obama and his assaults on liberty, but Mike Pence and has proven that he too is an imminent threat to the U.S. Constitution. And he says, to address your caller, Paul, I have written a plan that details exactly how, that's in uppercase, all uppercase, exactly how I will approach issues in our nation at http://gameplanforamerica.com. Paul, that's for you, gameplanforamerica.com. And here is a candidate, T.J. Thomas, who is the Libertarian candidate in Indiana's 6th District. Way to go, and we appreciate that you were listening. Going back to the phone. Bill, thanks for holding.
No problem.
Okay, so I got a question for you. I lost Bill. Bill, dial back in. And I do apologize, and we're just trying to get it right, but I have a big question for you. So when we get Bill back, we're going to talk about how is it that in his generation he gets individual responsibility, but what we can do to light a fire under the next his generation and the next generation. Or is it, Mike, is it that our generation didn't raise our kids correctly? Is that what happened?
I don't think so. Personally, I think you need a swift kick in the backside every once in a while. It's a good step forward sometimes when you get a swift kick in the backside.
I think we got Bill back. Bill, is that you?
Yes, I missed you about 20 seconds of what you said.
That's all right. Listen, I wanted to ask you a question. You could, you're my son's generation. But you seem to have caught on to individual responsibility, and I don't think it's such a hard concept, and I don't think you think it's so hard. Where did we go wrong, and what can we do to enlighten your generation and your children's generation? What can we do?
Well, I think it's going to, even if we start doing the right things now, it took us a few generations to get here. It'll take us a couple generations to get back. I mean, we just have to be realistic. But my father just didn't put up with some of the excuses that children are allowed these days. Even if I had a teacher that maybe gave me a rough time in school, you run into bad teachers, I still was never relieved of my responsibility. I was never relieved. I'd ask my dad for allowance. He'd say, "You get 3 hots and a cot. You're part of this family. You work towards the welfare of this family." I had serious chores and serious contribution to the welfare of our family by the time I was 12 or 13, and I've been working since I was 14. We don't do that. We coddle our children now. They're in their mid-20s or early 30s before they have the level of responsibility that me and my brothers had when we were in our late teens. And
I would say we're getting lots of head nods in the studio that you're correct.
And I see the same thing when I go to parent-teacher conferences with my students or with my children. The teachers are just waiting for me to lay into them because as our society, we say it's the problem with the education system, and some of it is, but our society is expecting the education system to take over responsibilities that should belong to us as parents. And historically, every society that has gotten to the level of prosperity we have has gone through a period like this. Some of them never get it turned around, but we could.
Mike, go ahead and jump right in there.
Do you think part of the issue is that, failure, I think, is something that if you are involved in any type of business enterprise at the very beginning, especially if you're quite young, you might be apt to have occur. And there's always a learning process that goes with it. But in the educational process, there's a stigma with the idea that you can't fail. But again, I've always believed that in failure sometimes comes a learning process of the fact that you're not doing things the way that they should be done, and you need to rectify that situation.
Absolutely. I believe that's a problem, not just in school, but in our country. We have this idea that Americans are inherently right all the time and we're never wrong. And we can't progress as a society if we don't realize that. And we seem to we can't handle things not going our way in the United States. Now, I crashed and burned my business the first time around, and I'm glad I did. I think you have to go through those kinds of failures. You have to be introduced to it, and we're protecting our children. We've been doing it, I think, probably since the greatest generation. They came back from World War II, and they wanted to give their kids better. And that generation wanted to be even a little bit more lax and give their kids a better life. And, of course, commercial America just wanted us to keep buying stuff so we could have a better life. Yep. And here we are.
And the parents did not want the children to have to go through the same problems they did.
Yeah, but in the middle of all of that, we truly did forget that failure is often the very best teacher. And even in the industry that I work in, we rejoice when we make mistakes only because of the industry I'm in, because you're a step closer to actually solving the problem. But if you try to take, say, a physics course in high school and you fail, you are absolutely punished. And the lesson that our kids are learning is don't try, rather than try harder. And I don't know how quite to fix that dichotomy. Bill, do you have an idea on that?
Well, you know what? As much as we are upset about it, one of the best things we could do is go through the financial crisis we are today. Because people are having to learn tough lessons that the way we were living doesn't work. Now, so a lot of people want to blame it on government. The talk show pundits love to sell their media product by talking about this back and forth constantly. But the fact is, I know a lot of business owners and a lot of people that are learning that the lifestyle we lived and the way we were living doesn't work. And frankly, even another depression would probably make us tough as nails. As much as we don't want to go through that, it's nasty taste in medicine. This recession is a good thing, I think, in the long run for us.
Well, but I want to go right back to where I started, Bill. And I'm first going to ask you when you're going to run for office. But
I would never pass the vetting process.
But here's the problem. We have to set some priorities, and through this campaign, we have not talked about the nastiness that we're going to face. And it takes time to actually kind of come to grips with what you have to do. And we've thrown it all away. I'm sorry, Kim, and I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Bill, go ahead.
Well, the biggest problems we have to fix right now, we talk about we got problems with jobs, we got problems in the economy, we got problems in, too much spending. This time around, I'm successful in my business in reaching the goals I want to. I've learned that underlying, on the surface, I'm a plumber. And people think that's what I do for a living. Yeah, that's the product I sell, but underlying all that has to be a lot of business processes in place. The numbers have to be right, and how I conduct my business is what makes me successful, not the fact that I'm a plumber. In government, we have to fix our underlying processes, or it doesn't matter. And process is boring. It's not exciting to talk about on the campaign trail. It's not inspiring, and that's not what people want to hear.
I sure do like you.
But it's what's going to make or break a business, any business.
Absolutely. Did you know that there is no place in the current New Mexico state government to look at process? No place to make that correction? No place to hold it accountable? Do you know that?
I do. You know what? There's a pretty decent program, although it's a little bit complicated for small business owners, but it's a pretty good program. It's a Quality New Mexico program based on the Malcolm Baldrige principles of process management.
Yep.
I think anybody at a certain level of government should be required to go through the course.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, it could be the ISO 9000, the Six Sigma, because it's all kind of the same concept, but nonetheless, process is important. and process can cost you a lot of money if it's a lousy process.
Absolutely. It can, well, I believe that a great idea that is improperly executed with a bad plan and a bad process will lose to a poor idea that's properly executed almost every single time.
I offer you VHS versus beta videotape. and that's literally what happened. Beta was always the better format. But that's exactly what happened. Bill, I have to take a break. Your choice. Would you like to stay with us?
Actually, I'm not going to be able to continue on the show, but it's been wonderful talking to you.
I would say I sure do appreciate the call. You have a really good one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Awesome caller. This is Janice Arnold-Jones. I am sitting in for Adam Kokesh. Adam versus the man. This is a conversation. Please give us a call, 265-1550, or toll-free 877-437-6119. This is AM 1550 KIVA, More Positive Talk Radio.